Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm here with Richard Williams. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Cornish Metals. Welcome, Richard.
Hi, Sherman. Good to be back.
Great to have you. This podcast, the purpose is to really highlight the tremendous opportunities for investors that are looking to invest wisely in the world of energy transition, where we need both tin and copper, which are going to be in very high demand and limited supply, especially in safe jurisdictions that have real deposits that are close to production. Here's a little bit of background for everybody before we get Richard to start with his update. South Crofty is an historical high-grade underground tin mine that started production in the 16th century and continued operating until 1998. In addition, South Crofty has the fourth highest grade tin mineral resource globally and benefits from the presence of multiple shafts. Many people may not realize that tin is a critical mineral as defined by the UK, United States, and Canadian governments. And approximately 75% of all the tin mined today is coming from places like China and Indonesia. Surprisingly, there's no primary tin production in Europe or North America. Richard, you recently put out a great corporate update, and our listeners would certainly benefit to hear this update directly from you.
Sure. Look, the last year has been extremely busy for us. We raised £40 million in May 2022, and the purpose of that was to build a water treatment plant, dewater the South Crofty mine, and complete a feasibility study. And for the best part of this year, we've been building that water treatment plant. We recently completed it. We're in the commissioning phase right now, and we expect to start dewatering South Crofty within the next couple of weeks. In parallel to that, we've been running our feasibility study. A major component of that feasibility study was to complete a metallurgical drill program, which we completed in July this year. And the samples from that were collected from 5 different load structures within the mine. And we've sent those samples off to TOMRA in Germany for testing through a process called XRT ore sorting. And that's a new technology that is being used quite effectively in many deposits around the world now to separate ore from waste before it goes into the mill. And the benefits of that is obviously to reduce the amount of material that you send through the mill, so thereby reducing power consumption, power costs, so you have lower operating costs. And the mill itself is smaller than would typically be required, so your capital cost to build it would be less. And we announced this week the results from that ore sorting test, and very, very positive, much better than we anticipated. And the highlight numbers are indicative that we could reject about 55% of the mass that we mine, and only lose about 3% of the metal in the process. So effectively a double in the grade when you put in half the material through the process plant. So that's a very good development for us, and will certainly feed into the outcome for the feasibility study.
Yeah, very good. I noticed some of the core pictures that you recently published with your corporate update on the high grade tin zones.
Yeah, it's a fascinating deposit. I think when I first looked at it, hard to believe now, it's almost 8 years ago. You realize that it is a world-class tin system within a world-class tin belt. Cornwall is a world-class tin district, but most of the mining took place really there from the 16th century, as you alluded to earlier, right up until the end of, South Crofty was the last tin mine to close in 1998. Over 2,000 mines in the region, and South Crofty was really the jewel in the crown for the whole tin mining region in Cornwall. And we are fortunate enough to benefit from a project not only is high grade, but it's also permanent. We have mine permission to get into mining, and that is valid until 2071. And we've got full planning permission to build a process plant. So part of that was to build a water treatment plant. The next stage, obviously, on the outcome of the feasibility study is to make a production decision and then build the process facilities. So lots going on.
Yeah, lots going on. I was recently listening to a presentation by Frank Giustra, and Frank Giustra is not the only one. I think Clive Johnson, also from B2 Gold, highlighting for investors recently about to really focus on assets that are either in production or very close to production. And this really, in my mind, makes Cornish Metals and South Crofty really stand out. Certainly retail investors have been, pummeled is maybe, one way to describe the markets over the last year. But I do think that we've seen the bottom of stock prices, and now retail investors are starting to pick away at some really good stories. And I think Cornish Metals certainly stands out as a remarkable investment at these prices.
Yeah, I think from a project perspective, you just have to look at when it was last in production. The tin price collapsed in 1985, which led to the closure of most of the hard rock tin mines around the world. South Crofty survived for another 13 years, which I think really reflects the quality of the ore deposit and the high-grade nature of it. And that proven history of operations, I think, gives us a lot of comfort that we are sitting on something that could potentially be a mine for a long time to come. And that's certainly the view that our largest shareholder, Vision Blue Resources, takes as well. They've looked at the project. They were the lead investor on the financing last year. They obviously looked at a number of other tin projects, tin opportunities globally, and from their perspective, this was the standout. So, it's a great project in a very good jurisdiction. We've got excellent support from Cornwall government, Cornwall Council, the UK government, and we also enjoy tremendous support from the local community because, we're in an area that really needs these high-quality, high-paying, well-trained jobs, and it's an area where people really have a strong association with the history of mining at South Crofty and want to see the mine back in production. So I don't think you can go to many jurisdictions around the world and have all of those come together. A permitted project, high grade, and very strong community and government support to get back going again.
Well, thank you so much, Richard, for taking the time. I've been here with Richard Williams, the Chief Executive Officer of Cornish Metals, talking about the exciting metal called tin. Thank you very much, Richard.
Thank you, Sherman.